So we're gonna go ahead and get started in Design Space. I'm going to walk you through how I made this design, but I will also include a link in the description below. If you want to make this project too, you can just click the link and it'll take you to the screen. So the first thing that I did was search for an apple image. So you can see here's my apple here. So to search for images, we'll go to Images, click on it, then we can type in apple. And it's gonna pull up a ton of different Apple related searches for you. So you can just go ahead, scroll through and click the Apple that you like. This is the one that I use. We'll go ahead, click on that, click insert images, and then now we have it on your canvas. So we'll just put it up here and we're gonna just change it to be green. Just because I'm using green vinyl, so it helps me to be able to visualize just by putting each part of the design as the color vinyl that I'm using. All right, so the next part is going to be to add text. So we'll click on text, which is right underneath images, and then go ahead and type in your name or whatever you're using. We are going to be using this top toolbar a lot, so keep your eye up here. The first thing I want to do is to change the font. So if you come over to font on the far left-hand side over here, we're going to click on Cricut Sans. And the font that I use for this project is a Cricut font, and it is called Fantastic Fonts. So I just typed in Fantastic in the search bar, and it's actually this first one, Fantastic Fonts DJ Doodlers. So we'll click on that. And now our font is changed. Perfect. So still staying up here in this top bar, the next thing I'm going to do is change the alignment, which is right here. I want the text to be centered. So I'm going to click and click center. And then from here, I want to move the word Bailey up closer to Mrs. So what I want to do is adjust the spacing between the two lines. So again, up here where it says line space, we are going to arrow down until we have it where we want it. So do you see how the Bailey is moving closer towards the misses? So just keep going until you got it where you like it. And then the last thing that I did is I ungrouped my text. So we'll click ungroup. And then I actually kind of bumped some of the letters up. I wanted to make it a little bit more like playful, so I kind of just messed with the font a little bit. So since I have it all ungrouped, you can click on individual letters and you can actually just move them. So I just, no rhyme or reason, just clicked on individual ones, and I'm using my keyboard, the arrows up, down, left and right, to kind of move them around. So I moved the A up, I moved the E, and then I moved the Y to the left. Perfect. So now from here, I'm going to go ahead and group Bailey back together. So highlight all of Bailey, group, highlight all of Mrs., and group. And then I'm going to group them both together. Hopefully you're still following here, because I want the Mrs. and the Bailey to be aligned horizontally together. So I've got them both highlighted. We'll come back up to align, and I'm going to center them horizontally. So did you catch how the Mrs. bumped over a little bit? So now Mrs. and Bailey are aligned perfectly together. So that's all I did for the font. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we want to attach it together. This is going to tell the Cricut, hey, I want you to cut these letters exactly as I have designed them. So we'll go ahead and click attach. Let's just change it to white like I did before. And then I'm going to go ahead and drag this over the apple. And you see this arrow right here? We can click and drag and adjust the sizing. And since it's locked, it's going to stay proportionate, which is exactly what we want. So you can just size it down however you want. It is important to know that you actually, I'll back up a second, you should start by making sure that your apple or whatever image you're using is sized the way that you want it to be. So mine actually came on the canvas at 3 inches tall, and that's actually exactly what I want. So I knew that this was the right size. So figure out the sizing for the apple, and then you can go ahead and adjust your words based off of that. So now the design is all done. A few last things. Make sure you have the correct machine selected. I probably should have told you to do this at the beginning, but I forgot. You can make this project on any of the three, but we're using an Explorer Air 2 today. So I've got the Explorer selected, which is perfect. So now the design portion is finished and we can get to making this on our Cricut. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the second one. So just highlight them both and click on delete. And then from here, we know that we're working with 2 different colors of vinyl, right? I've got my green vinyl and my white vinyl. So when we go to click on make it, when you have your design as separate colors, your Cricut is going to cut based on the colors. So if we click make it, it's going to cut them on 2 separate mats, which is totally fine. You can do it this way if you'd like, But to save time, I like to cut them, even though it's two different colors of vinyl, I like to cut them on the same mat at the same time. Just saves you a little bit of time. So there are two ways to do this, even though, like I said, we're gonna work with two different colors of vinyl. We're just going to put the pieces on the mat and just adjust this manually. So let me show you what I mean. If we go ahead and change both of these to be green, for example, then it's going to cut them at the same time. So when I come in with my green vinyl, I'm gonna place it on the mat right up against the side, and then I'm gonna place my white vinyl, which is the Mrs. Bailey. I'm gonna align the white vinyl right up on the 5-inch mark and place it here. That's one way you could do this. Or if we hit cancel and come back, let's change this back to white. Let's say you wanted to keep your project just as you had it so you can, get a good visual idea. You just don't wanna change the colors or the layers. You can click on Make It. And then a quick tip here, if you want to move this to your other mat, you can just click on Mrs. Bailey, click these 3 little dots, move object, and now you can either create a whole new mat or you can actually click on your green mat and it's gonna send it to that mat so that they cut together. This is one of my favorite things to do. So we'll click on confirm, and now check it out. Even though we know that this is normally white, it's going to cut them on the same mat. And so again, we will line up our green vinyl right up against the edge, and we'll put our white vinyl right on that 5 mark, and then we can cut 2 different colors of vinyl at the same time. So there's a little trick for you. So then from here, we'll hit continue. We'll get connected to our Air 2 over Bluetooth, and then we will select our material and get cutting. I'm gonna get started by cutting my vinyl to size. You can use a paper trimmer to do this, or you can just use scissors as well. I love to use the paper trimmer because it just keeps everything straight. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this. The first one only needs to be 2 by 3. So I'm gonna cut, I bumped it up to the 2 here, then I'm gonna stop at the 3 right here, which is super nice. Another great reason to use the paper trimmer, can get really precise cuts. And then I'll just turn it over and cut it to size. Just like that. And then I'll get my green one cut, and then we'll get these applied onto the cutting mat. I'm using a light grip cutting mat to apply my vinyl today, but you can definitely use a standard grip one as well. And like I mentioned on the mat preview screen, I'm just gonna get these lined up in their spots. So again, normally when you are cutting different layers or colors of a material, your Cricut will have you cut them one mat at a time, but you can use this trick to save time just by lining them up. So I've got the apple, I've got it lined up right here, and then I'm gonna put the text lined right up on the 5. And that's as simple as that is. So that's a little trick, it'll just save you some time. So I've got my Air 2 connected over Bluetooth, and I'm just gonna move this dial on the right here over to vinyl, and then we'll get this loaded in. And as soon as the C starts to flash, we will hit that, and then it will start to cut. All right, now that it's all finished cutting, we're going to remove the vinyl from the mat. I always like to flip the mat over and keep the vinyl straight. Bend the mat. That will help your vinyl from bending or cupping or kinking, anything like that. All right, so now we're going to weed. If you've never weeded before, this just means to remove the vinyl from around your design and inside of it. Anything basically you don't want any negative space. So I've got a weeder tool here, and I like to start in the top corner, doesn't matter which one, and just work my way down, pulling at a 45-degree angle, and I like to keep the vinyl pretty flat as I go. So as you can see, we're removing the vinyl from around the apple. So that one's all done, and now we're going to weed around our letters. This one's obviously going to be a little trickier just because of its nature, with it being more letters, so just go nice and slow. So right now I'm removing the vinyl from around, and now I'm going to go in with my weeder tool and just get the insides of the letters. Just like that. So there are our 2 pieces, and now we are going to apply this piece on top of our vinyl before we put it onto our mason jar. So I've got a sheet of transfer tape here, and what I'm going to do is just cut some to size. You can use the whole sheet if you want, but sometimes cutting it down just makes it a little bit easier to work with. But then the downside is then you just have kind of random small pieces of transfer tape. But you can reuse your transfer tape. So if you're going to be making a lot of mugs or other projects, then just keep reusing this little piece. So now we're going to take our transfer tape and we're going to peel it off of this paper backing that it's on. Again, just start in a corner and you can peel away. Don't throw this paper away because we're going to put the transfer tape back on it when we're done. And now we're going to apply our transfer tape on top of our letters. So to do this, I like to start in one corner and go nice and slow and just work your way down. You can grab your scraper tool as well, just kind of help you push as you go. It's really important that you apply it evenly across the vinyl. So then once you've got it stuck on pretty good, I'm going to go ahead and apply more pressure. Just scrape really good. This is called burnishing, if you hear that ever in the Cricut crafting world. And then I always like to flip my vinyl transfer tape combo over and do it from the back as well. All right, so now we're going to apply it on top of our apple. So we'll remove the paper backing that the vinyl was on. Again, starting in a corner at a 45-degree angle, going nice and slow. And do you see how that's staying on the transfer tape and is not on the paper backing anymore? If as you're going, you're finding that the vinyl has not stuck to the transfer tape, just push this back down and scrape down again. So now we've got our vinyl onto our transfer tape, just like that. And now what we're gonna do is line this up on our apple where we want it to go. And again, apply it evenly. This time I kind of started in the middle and let it like go side to side. And we'll push down. The most important part is just to make sure that you get it applied evenly. So we'll burnish, and then I'm gonna just burnish from the back again. But what we are gonna do here is now remove the transfer tape, and we want the white vinyl to stay on the green apple. So it's trying to take up the green apple, the transfer tape. So I'm just gonna hold it down with my scraper tool. Perfect, now it should be okay. So now I'm just gonna kind of rock back and forth. This is another little technique I like to use when working with vinyl and transfer tape. And then I'll just push down carefully. So that's what that looks like. And now we're gonna take this whole combo and apply it onto the jar. The reason I like to do all of my layering before I get onto my bling surface is just because I think it's a lot easier. So you could apply your apple onto your jar and then apply your words on. And again, that's totally fine. You can definitely do that, but I think it's a little easier to work with when you're layering vinyl, just to kind of do it all at once before you even get here. So now we're gonna take our transfer tape, apply it back onto our apple. Make sure to lay that flat, burnish. And now we're gonna remove the paper backing that the green vinyl was on. Going nice and slow. And then we're gonna take our jar. I've already cleaned and wiped down mine. Just make sure it is a clean surface before you apply. And we're gonna get our little apple lined up. So I'm just trying to center it here and do my best. I think that looks about good. So again, I started in the middle and I'm gonna work one side down and then go to the other side. And we'll take that scraper tool. Now we will remove our transfer tape. So I'm going nice and slow, making sure that everything stays. If you find that something is still sticking to the transfer tape, you can just put the transfer tape back down, burnish again, and you should be good. But it should come just this easily. So now I'm gonna take my transfer tape, put it back onto that paper backing, because remember, like I said, reuse your tape as much as you can. I reuse it until it's just not really sticky anymore. So here's our mug, and I like to start just by going over it with my fingers. You wanna get any air bubbles out, but then you can go over with your scraper as well. And that is how you make a mason jar with a little vinyl decal with your Cricut. Isn't that so cute? We just layered some vinyl, applied a vinyl decal onto this mason jar that we picked up at the Target dollar section. You can find these anywhere though. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, please let us know in the comments below.